I went to answer the door, and due to the fact that it was late in the night, I was already sleeping. I was putting on my nightgown, and as a girl of 15, my body was already maturing and I was quite curvy at that time. When I opened the door, when my uncle looked at me, there was a very strange look in his eye. I could not understand, but soon I was about to find out. Hi, I'm a lady from Nigeria in Ogun State. I was orphaned from a very young age of 12. I was the only child. My late parents were very rich, but sadly they died in a ghastly motor accident, coming back from an event to celebrate a friend's child naming ceremony at the outskirts of the town. My auntie took me in. She was my dad's immediate junior sister. In this life, you will never know how fake people are until disaster strikes. This is my auntie. When my father was alive, was single-handedly paying for her children's school fees. Sometimes he even pays for the family feeding, in addition to paying for the school fees. Her husband was sacked from his work for fraud, so getting another job was almost impossible because his former employers, not only did they sack him, but they also stated the reason why they sacked him, that they sacked him for fraud. They stated this in his work documents, so nobody wanted to hire him. When this family took me in, they showed me a taste of how life can be cruel at that tender age of 12. Immediately after moving in, my auntie seized all my nice dresses and exchanged it with her daughter's own. I and her first daughter were of the same age. Due to the fact that they were poor, the clothes she handed to me were a far cry from the quality of my own. I cried so hard that night because those clothes represented special memories for me. They were birthday gifts from my now late mom. Not only did she steal them from me, she took away my last physical connection with my mom. My clothes were not the only thing they took. They took the car my parents had an accident with and sold it as scrap. They took our belongings like our TV, my mom's jewelry, her kitchen pots and plates, and our furniture. It was as if they raided us like armed robbers. I remember her husband trying to gain access into my father's account, but the bank refused because they were not stated as his next of kin. They made me do all the house chores while she and her children do nothing. My auntie and her children comes to mock me time to time. It was as if she was deeply jealous of my parents' success when they were alive, but she hid that fact carefully because she was receiving help from them. This was another important lesson life taught me at such a young age, that a beautiful smile can hide such a very ugly heart. There were times I felt so alone and cried all night, sometimes cursing God for allowing this to happen to my family, even though my parents were Christian who go to church regularly. How can God turn a blind eye and let such evil happen? This continued for the next 3 years. When I turned 15, life had another shocking experience waiting for me. One night, when my auntie and her kids went for night vigil, I was the only one at home. Her husband came back drunk late at night as usual, frustrated about how he could not get a job, ignoring the fact that the reason why he could not is because he was a very bad man with no integrity. I went to answer the door, and due to the fact that it was late in the night, I was already sleeping. I was putting on my nightgown, and as a girl of 15, my body was already maturing and I was quite curvy at that time. When I opened the door, when my uncle looked at me, there was a very strange look in his eye. I could not understand, but soon I was about to find out. I served him his food and went back to my room. Hardly had I placed my head on the pillow when I heard a knock on my door. I opened, and immediately my uncle burst into the room, held my mouth and raped me. I was a virgin at that point. I tried to fight back, but he was too strong for me. He raped me and fondled my breast. The bedsheet was filled with my blood. After he was done, he left. But before he left, he warned me that if I say a word about this, he will kill me. I cried that night. I called on God. I called on the spirits of my parents for vengeance. I placed a curse on his head with my blood on my hands, that one day life will bring him under my mercy to do what I want with him. He continued doing this to me until I got pregnant. I told him about it. One night, he brought some tablets and told me to take it, and before 2 days, I secreted blood. It got me pregnant 3 more times after that, and he always handled that by giving me those tablets. I knew I could not continue like this. What will happen to my womb? I started to plan to run away. There was this lady down the road. She had a big shop. She had taken a special interest in me and always called me her daughter. I went to her and told her what was going on with me. She became so angry and told me why have I not gone to her since. She told me she will send me somewhere they will never find me, that a beautiful girl like me should not be suffering. She said she had a friend who would take care of me and give me a job in the next town. That was how I sneaked out one day with my few belongings when nobody was around, and I went to this lady. She immediately booked a taxi for me and took me to the next town. Her friend was waiting for me at the park. She came with a nice car. When she came out to open the boot for me to put my things, I noticed she was well dressed. She had a lot of jewelries and she looked very rich. I entered the car and we drove down to her house. She took me to her tastily furnished house, told me to take my bath. After that, I should come to the dining to eat so we can have a deep conversation. After all that, she invited me to her room. She told me her friend has told her my story and she was sorry for that. She told me that life was tough and only the strongest survive. She said why all those things were happening to me was because I was poor, that I should take a good look at her, that nobody can try that nonsense with her because she was rich and well connected. She said she wants to help me, that she has helped a lot of girls become rich, that it was up to me if I want to go back to poverty or come with her and become one of the biggest girls in town. I had no choice but to agree. I can't go back to my wicked auntie, and as an orphan that I am, I had no other place to go to. I told her I was ready to become rich. The next day, she took me to a big club. As we went inside, I saw different girls around. Some we are sitting on men's lap, some we are smoking, some we are drinking. But one thing is that they all look good, with nice clothes, jewelries, wigs, and big phones. I wanted to be like them. I was tired of being poor. That was how I became a high-class prostitute. I must say, I earned a good living. The men who came to the club were really rich. It was a private club. From the outside, you would not know that things like this were happening inside. It was a very private club, set apart for rich businessmen who were ready to spend big. Sometimes I go with these men to their house. Sometimes we stay in the room at the girls' quarter at the back of the club. I had only one close friend there, Angela. We became more like sisters. We shared our deepest secret together. I told her where I was coming from and how my uncle raped me. I have never told any girl in that place except her. That was how close we were. She was the one who taught me the secrets and tricks of being a prostitute. How to secretly mix water in your wine so you don't get too drunk. How to drug men and steal their jewelries. She helped me open my first bank account so I can save money. Fast forward to 3 years later, I was already rich and doing well, and I have changed in appearance. I have grown taller, more sexy. I have even bleached my skin with creams to become fair with expensive wigs on my head. If you knew me before, you would not recognize me again. So my biggest surprise when I came to the club one day after going to service a client in a hotel in town, I saw my uncle sitting down, drinking an expensive wine with my friend Angela sitting on his laps. He dressed real good. It seemed things has changed for him. He really looked rich. Before I could hide, Angela called me and introduced me to him. He did not recognize me. He just nodded his head and kept on drinking. Later in the night, after he was gone, I went to Angela and told her that this was my uncle I told you about, who disvirgined me and made me commit abortion several times. She became furious that I should have told her. She would have looked for a way to set him up or hurt him at that point. She said I should not worry, that he will still come back again. Angela can be very evil when she wants to. She is a master planner, and when it comes to me, she will do anything to protect me. I have seen her set up men with drugs and call the police on them. I have seen her stab men on their arms. I have seen other incidents too. Angela can be very dangerous if she wants to. She called me one evening that she has thought about a plan. She was going to give my uncle a love potion, snatch him from his wife, drain all his money and break up his marriage to teach him and my aunt a dirty lesson. Then after that, she was going to free him.